The 6 to 7 Figure Show, episode 62. Let's hit it.
Broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun outside Phoenix, Arizona. This is the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Tired of working so hard and having no time? Take your six-figure practice and turn it to a thriving seven-figure enterprise. And now, your host, author, speaker, mentor, and strategist, Frank Bria.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I'm your host, Frank Bria, and today I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by Jeff Keim, also known as Quantum Jeff. He's a quantum leap coach, specializes in sharing with clients how to make dramatic increase in the results without taking all of the logical steps. Rather than conventional thinking and gradual improvement, he focuses on a breakthrough leading to an explosive jump in your personal performance. It's a formula for setting achievement and the realization of your dreams. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. Really glad to have you here.
Hey, Frank, it's my pleasure.
So where'd you first come up with the name Quantum Jeff? Where'd that come from?
That was actually given to me by an influencer on LinkedIn. He tossed it out there one day, and I said, hey, I can market that and I can work with that, because I'd always been tagging myself as a quantum leap coach, and we use a lot of quantum concepts in our coaching. So I just went with it.
Yeah, that's great. It's most of us work for a long time to try to find some kind of moniker like that. So I guess when it gets handed to you like that, you should take it and run with it.
Yeah.
So this is a really interesting concept. So many people are focused on process and, sort of the 1, 2, 3 steps here, but you're really talking about jumping the queue a little bit here in terms of how people get results. Talk to us a little bit more about how that's done.
Well, it's done very simply, but some people make it very complex. We are spiritual beings. We actually exist on 3 planes of existence. We're a spirit, and we're living for a current time in our physical bodies. And what we get confused with when we think of process, as you said, we think of ourselves more as matter, meaning physical matter. And so we think that this is all a solution that needs to be worked out with working with matter. And what we teach people is that you're more energy. You're more of an energetic being than you are a physical being. And things move much easier and with much more effectiveness if you work with it on an energetic level. When you try and work with energy rather than working with matter, it becomes a whole different ballgame.
That's interesting. I mean, my past as a physicist when I was in college, all the quantum physics stuff about matter and energy stuff always comes back around, except this time, instead of from the science community, it comes from the spiritual entrepreneurial community, which is really fascinating. What kinds of people are you typically working with, and what kinds of goals are they usually trying to achieve when they work with you?
I typically work with really high achievers, but I can work with anybody. We market our services to real estate, financial services professionals, and C-suite executives, because that's my background. So it's where I have an affinity and I can talk their language. But really, our services can be utilized by anybody that's looking to ramp up their results. And the reason that's applicable is we don't talk about industry information. We don't talk about the how-tos of prospecting and other things like that, because for the most part, people know what they need to do. The biggest challenge is the knowing-doing gap, is they don't know, they don't do what they know, and it continues to frustrate them. And it all comes from an internal paradigm or a collection of habits. And what they don't realize is they can change short-term behavior pretty consistently, but it won't take unless you change the underlying beliefs. So everybody has what they need. They just don't know how to get there, and they're missing the combinations to the tumbler.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always fascinating that, as they say, there's kind of two things, right? You either don't know what to do or you do know what to do and you're not doing it. And so much of the industry focuses on the first part, which is I'm going to teach you what you don't know. But I agree with you. I think the vast majority of the issues actually are the second piece, which is for some reason we're not doing what it is that we know we should be doing. What do you see are some of the blocks that are keeping people stuck in that spot? I mean, it seems so counterintuitive, right? That we would know exactly what to do, but just not get it done. Are there patterns that you see in people that are kind of keeping them stuck in that spot?
Yeah, of course. We all have them. It's, can be easily recognized. The thing is, people have everything that they need within themselves. That's why we don't teach people the outside industry information. What we teach people is to know themselves better. And once they learn how they tick and how they're wired, it becomes relatively easy. Now, that's not just an easy thing to snap your fingers and do. It comes from, as I said before, the paradigm, which is a collection of habits. And the only two ways that we know of to change behavior over the long term, now that means so that you don't go back, you overwrite the code, is through emotional impact, which is almost always bad. It doesn't have to be, but it is. Might be getting fired or a divorce, or 9/11 was emotional. It just wham, smacks you, and you think, okay, I'm changing my behavior. Yeah.
Right.
And we don't usually see that coming. We can't predict that. So the only way predictable and functional that we have discovered so far to change your behavior is through constant spaced repetition. If you go into the book Think and Grow Rich, there's a chapter on faith and a chapter on autosuggestion. And autosuggestion sounds simple, but people don't do it. And that's where we come in as coaches. You can teach people what to do. How many books are there on self-improvement? You go into the self-help section of Barnes and Noble, or you go out on the internet, and people have access to a ton of information. Well, typically what happens is, left to self-study, most people aren't successful. That's not a criticism. It's just because we don't recognize our blind spots.
Yeah, that's it's interesting because I suspect self-help is probably the largest nonfiction category of books out there, and there's a ton of it's probably the classic example of having a bunch of thirsty people and the water's right there, but no one's going to actually get things fixed. Can you give a couple examples of people that you've worked with and the kinds of things they've had to do to achieve the goals they've set for themselves, just so we can kind of place it in concrete a little bit?
Sure. I had a gal, actually I'm still working with her, but Michelle, who was contemplating a career change for more than a year. And she didn't want to leave her current job. She had the uncertainty, and she knew she should have, and she knew she wasn't being respected. She was the #1 performing sales rep in an IT company. Well, once she made the decision to begin working together, we taught her how to, through a series of exercises, literally write out her own job description. She designed her own job. She designed her home office, not even knowing that she was going to be working out of it. And she went to work for Cisco, and their normal interview process takes about 3 months, and she completed it in about 3 weeks. And she thought she was going to have to take a 50% pay, or not a 50, she thought she'd have to take a slight pay cut.
Yeah.
And she more than doubled her income.
Wow.
And when she was finalizing the process, she kind of knew she'd have a job, because there was only, they got down to 3 candidates, and they had 2 positions open. And she thought she'd be going north of Toledo and going up to Southfield, Michigan. And it was about 5 days before they offered her the job that they called, and they told her that their Toledo area rep had resigned. And they wanted to know if she'd be interested in taking this Toledo territory. It would necessitate her working out of her home. And she had all of that planned out in advance and did not know how it was going to come about. But she got herself mentally to begin living that reality in her head. And it's incredibly powerful stuff.
Yeah.
We don't realize it. And anyway, she's gone on to work very successfully for Cisco. And when they made her written offer, it was more in excess of what they had offered her verbally than what my coaching services cost. So she paid for it in just at one negotiation.
Wow, that's terrific. And how long are you typically working with people through these processes? Does it vary, or do you have kind of a process? I, again, hate to use the word process for the guy who throws the process away, but do you have a general framework you usually work through?
Yeah, we have a very specific framework.
Okay.
And it's 6 months. We work with our clients over a 6 month period of time. Because when I got into coaching, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I had found what I believed to be the most powerful program out there. And it's the program that I invested an incredible amount of money in to become certified and to offer it. And that's the reason it's taught in 12 lessons, and it's taught over a 6 month period of time. And that's what makes it ingrained. It literally, we work on one lesson for 2 weeks at a time. And so there's no shortcuts. There's no, they're not hard to understand. It's not rocket science. In fact, when you realize it, sometimes the thing is people think it sounds too easy, but when they hit those barriers, or they hit those terror barriers, and there's all kinds of things that come along that helps make it worth our being there, and what we bring to the table in helping them go through each of the 12 lessons and facilitating them.
Do you typically work with people one-on-one, or is there some kind of a cohort or a group framework that you're using as well?
There's a group framework that we work through, okay, where we have, we'll get so many people and we put them in a group facilitation. And that includes live, me facilitating the group live once a week, and then taking questions. And everybody has access to me for personal laser coaching sessions as well. And I do have a separate one-on-one client program that I have it's thinking into the results, but it's much more layered, and it's more expensive than that. And we only take on so many personal clients each year. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be reserved for, the very few at the top. I totally get that. One of the things that I find is, we talk to entrepreneurs, is that entrepreneurs in your space that are doing a lot of this personal inner work have a hard time with group facilitation. And there's a lot of things they tell themselves about that I think are misnomers. I'd be curious what your opinion is. A lot of people think it's hard to get people in a group to do this kind of inner work and really sort of feel safe and authentic. What are some of the things that you do that allow your clients to kind of open up in this environment when they're doing a lot of this kind of inner work?
Well, two things. One, we interview our clients and make sure that they are willing to do the work, and that they realize what it's going to entail. And we tell them it's going to be very personal. And the more they put into it, the more they're going to get out of it. And really, if they don't have the commitment, we turn clients down, quite honestly.
Sure. Yeah.
But beyond that, they have the access to me. There's always, certain things that clients don't want to talk about. And if they were, wanting the most out of it, they really would benefit more if they would share it in the group. But many people aren't willing to do that initially, with all the little details. And so that's why we still provide access to them through the laser coaching program.
Got it. Do you find that that there's opportunities in that group for people to be kind of helping each other or supporting each other along the way? Does that group dynamic help the process along?
Oh, that helps the process along tremendously. In fact, we encourage them to get an accountability partner.
Oh, okay, great.
And lesson 12, our lessons build sequentially, but they're exposed or encouraged to go through all of them once right at the very beginning, so they know what the program is. But lesson 12 is on the power of your your mind and the mastermind concept.
Mm.
And people not only attain the kind of camaraderie and things, but when you begin to work together and when you begin to open yourself up to the power of more than one, you can accomplish things and you can learn things that not any one individual in the group knew. And you can multiply it really exponentially.
Yeah. I always love that dynamic. I think it gets missed in a lot of group programs where, they'll throw people on a Zoom call or something, once a week, but they don't actually talk to each other or support each other. So it's amazing you've got the accountability partner concept in there. I want to pivot really quickly to the process. You've got these 12 lessons. Can you walk us through sort of the evolution of the work that people are doing through those 12 weeks? How does that look? Like, where do you start? How do you, how do you practice the kinds of things that you're talking about? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis for your clients?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, they get the lessons are all available via web. And they've got also downloadable audios. And they start by going through the 12 lessons the first week. They listen to one in the morning and one in the evening. And then when the process starts, they're listening to lesson one, which we start at the very basic of what do you want, and setting a goal and being very clear on your intention. And then the process that they work is they listen to the lesson once in the morning and once in the evening, and then the same lesson once in the morning, once in the evening, same lesson once in the morning for 14 days. And in that 14 days, there's once a week a group facilitation where they get on and they discover, what are other people experiencing with this, and they're going through their worksheets because the work that they do, the written work that they do, is more important, or at least as important as the lessons are. But we work through the knowing doing gap. We work through the power of your mind. We work through the mental faculties, the imagination, intuition, reason, will, perception, and we take you through those. We work on belief because belief is so important. And there's a module on attitude, a module on leadership, a module impression of increase, and the power of your mind. And so it's really very comprehensive, and that's why people invest 6 months. Because we're looking at really total life change. And it's not just about their career, and it's not just about what they'll gain in terms of new stuff. You will gain new stuff and you can set incredible goals, but it's really about the person that you become, and it's about the growth that you enable yourself. That's what goals really are. Goals are not about the stuff.
Right.
Most every expert you hear says in some fashion or form, it's not about the money.
Yeah, that's right. But it's interesting because you seem to embody that in your marketing messaging as well. I know a lot of people who are in a similar kind of space and get hung up on process and start talking about all this stuff. And in your marketing messaging, you're very clear. It's like, get stuff done in a very quick way without getting, all of the how that you just described is obviously critically important. Otherwise, there's no way to get there. But you go right to the end. You go right to the thing that people care about in your marketing messaging, which, that's something that I try to teach people to do, so they stop getting hung up on the stuff in the middle where you're not really connected. But that's so aligned with what your clients are looking for on day one when they come in the door.
Well, you hit on something very important there. It's if people knew how to do what they were setting their goal, they would have already done it.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't. Anybody that's achieved anything of significance never knew how they were going to do it before they started. But what the key was is they made a decision. And what we just get people to focus on is you just make a decision that you're going to do it. And then the way, the how, the people you need, the books you need to read, the courses you need to it might be a business opportunity. Those things will start to come about. And it's just like looking at those magic pictures. Once your focus changes, you'll see things that were right within your grasp.
Yeah.
And many times they'll come into your world. It's really all about the decision. People aren't taught in school how to make decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. I love that line. If you knew how to accomplish the goal, you would have done it already. That's so true. And like each of us look at that and go, "Oh, that's right."
Yeah, and you go, "Oh," and that's the knowing doing gap.
Right.
I mean, look at Sir Edmund Hillary. He didn't know how to climb Everest. Look at anybody. Look at Wright brothers, or look at Neil Armstrong. You know, when President Kennedy said, or asked Werner von Braun what it would take to get us to the moon, he said the decision to be there. And that was really just that one thing. President Kennedy set an unachievable, unimaginable goal.
Right.
And look at what happened. People's creativity just hit a new, whole new thrust.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's an amazing story of all the individual things we had to learn and invent and create in order to make that happen. But it's true. Like, we look back now and we go, oh, well, that was really prescient and smart, but it was a bold move and a gutsy move at the time. And it's not like it didn't come with its potential political costs. It looks brilliant now as we look back, but it takes a lot of internal fortitude and commitment, mental commitment, to be able to say something like that out loud and commit to it. Well,
Steve Jobs said, you can't view the future from the present. You can only view the future by looking backwards.
Interesting.
And that's what keeps people from making the decision. They say, well, I've got a goal here that I've already achieved, and then here's what I think: if all these plans can't come about exactly as I work out and they want all of the details to be worked out before they make the decision to start, and that's the key that's holding them back.
That's fascinating. That's a really important piece. I do think a lot of people have to see the bridge built in front of them before they'll step out on it, and it does look like the really great things of the world are, And we as entrepreneurs, we joke about a lot, because a lot of people say, well, it's like building an airplane. It's like jumping off a cliff and building an airplane on the way down. But I don't think very few people understand exactly what's required to do that. And they're waiting, and they're not going to jump off the cliff and build the airplane on the way down. Yeah. But there's nothing more committing yourself than jumping off the cliff, I suppose.
That's the old adage. I mean, leap in the net will appear, or in the Indiana Jones movie, when he would take the steps, and as he took the steps, the stones would appear.
Yeah.
But that's where the working with matter and working with energy becomes different. If you fully understand the way the world works, when you leap, the airplane's already there. That's just
I love that. That's even better. That's amazing.
I mean, we all think, we think that we got to build it. No, it's already there.
It's already there. That is amazing.
It's a perception problem. Yeah,
that's going to be the quote of this interview. I swear. That's amazing. I love that. Well, Jeff, unfortunately, we're out of time. So I'd love to continue talking about this a little bit more, but I know you're busy and you've got stuff to do as well. Really appreciate you taking the time. One last question for you before we finish up. As those people are listening to this and thinking, yeah, this is what I need, what's a great way for them to contact you or to reach out and begin a dialogue around this?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at jefflinkedin.com. It's all one word, jefflinkedin.com, or go to quantumjeff.com and see.
That's great. Yeah, and those links are here below the video. They're on the show notes page if you're listening to audio. If you're out and about listening to this, come on back to the show notes page, and we can link directly through to Jeff. Thanks so much for being with us. It's really fascinating. Got a lot. I'm sure people are going to be sitting around thinking about now, re-looking at the way that they're planning their goals, and especially as we're coming up, as we're recording this towards Q4, as people are thinking about next year. It's a good time to be thinking about how you're going to do it differently. So I know you've got me thinking about it now. So thanks so much. Really appreciate that.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. We have a saying with people: if you can tell us what you want, we'll show you how to get it. So
that's great.
And my pleasure. Thank you, Frank. I really appreciate it. And,
yeah, absolutely. And thank you everyone for being with us on this episode of the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Again, I'm your host, Frank Bria. This has been a really fascinating discussion. I know I've got stuff to think about. If you do too, reach out to Jeff and at the links here and get in touch and get moving on creating that which sounds like is already there for you. You just need to go find it. And we know you got a lot of stuff to do, so appreciate you taking the time with us, and we'll see you on our next episode. All right, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.